What's your brief about research? Westview is full of 5th grade researchers. The 5th grade classes researched and created briefings, which are like news articles in a question and answer format. We look closely at writing authors have done in scholastic newspapers and other sources to discover what they wanted us to think or do when we were done reading. We based our briefings on content with a purpose for an audience.
We are the animal abuse researchers. We picked this topic because we love animals and don't like to see them hurt. Did you know that there are 9 states left that need to pass legislations that will make animals abuse a felony?
Our entire group decided we wanted this to happen because felonies are sentences judges give animal abusers, and felonies stick on abusers' records. When they go to get jobs, people find out their backgrounds. Felony charges for abuse would keep abusers away from jobs involving animals, and maybe having abuse as a felony would make abusers think twice about their actions before they abuse innocent animals.
Here are some facts we learned. What is the animal that has endured the most abuse? The horse.
What forms of abuse took place in the past? Hog, dog fights, and bear baiting, where bears were forced to fight dogs.
We are the cloning researchers.
I picked this topic because I have always been interested in clones, and my older siblings are studying cloning in middle school, so I thought I'd get a jump on learning.
I actually took a field trip when I went to school in Idaho and learned more about how scientists run tests on cows.
I picked this topic because I wanted to know how scientists make clones.
Do you know how much it would cost to clone one human? $2 million. I thought researching cloning was fun. I learned about the natural way of life. We could clone too many humans and possibly run out of food and water. Everything in our world would get out of balance.
We are the juvenile crime researchers. After I researched, I learned that some juveniles that commit violent crimes have been abused and others just commit crimes for fun and games. I liked this project because I got to get on the computers and search a bunch of real-life information. But we kept the searching safe by staying on the Rolio sites that were set up for us.
Why do juveniles commit some of the crimes they do, and how do we help them get better? Those are questions that made us interested in this topic.
In the middle of my research, my 5-year-old cousin had a bad accident with a juvenile. My cousin died and the juvenile only had 2 broken bones. I think talking about this issue will help prepare me. This is much harder to say how I feel, one way or another, when an issue happens directly to you.
Here are some facts we've learned. Do you know where the biggest juvenile detention center is located? In Alaska.
Do you know the span of time the juvenile crime happens most often? From 3 to 7. At what age are juveniles committing the most crime? 16, 15, 14, then 17, and 18 years old.
After we chose our favorite topic to research, we got together and brainstormed words about the topic. We classified the words into groups like people, places, and actions.
These questions were going to help us develop a survey so that we can ask our families and friends what their opinions are about the topic.
When I picked this topic, I wanted to know what other types of executions were used when people get a death penalty sentenced.
I've never studied the death penalty before, so I was really interested in it.
I wanted to see how many times people that were executed were found innocent later and had their sentence reversed but weren't alive to know it.
I learned that too many times race affected the death penalty cases. African Americans had a better chance of having the death penalty. Do you know how many states have used the death penalty? 38 states.
Is the death penalty really working? The answer is no. The death penalty actually has increased the rates of violence. I found a chart that showed the information.
I learned people on death row
or special kind of clothing. All the shoes, skirts, and shirts are black, white, and red, and they have skeletons all over them. The people about to be executed stay in a cell by the place the execution is going to happen, and they get to eat a big meal with food like ice cream, chicken, and a bunch of yummy foods.
When I researched, I couldn't believe how many juveniles are committing violent crimes. Do you know how many juvenile crimes have been committed in 1 year? Over 7,000. In my research, I learned juveniles' brains are not fully developed yet, and they don't always make the greatest decisions.
It seems like juvenile crime would go down if more people had helped in the community. Juvenile could go to a place to play games, roller skate, or do regular kid stuff. I think juveniles feel bad about things in their life and choose to do bad things. If they just had people to help them work through it, the crime would go down.
We are the energy research. For our topic, we had to decide whether it was good to drill for oil in Alaska or save energy.
I was excited to get to use the laptops to look up information on what animals might be hurt when oil is drilled.
I was excited that we were going to get some of our articles put into the newspaper so that other in the summit could hear what we had to say about drilling for oil.
We used questions to make up a survey. The survey showed that most people didn't want America to drill for oil. People worried that animals that were almost extinct would be gone forever.
Americans use 85% of our world's energy. Compared to other countries, I think that makes American people seem spoiled with energy. We need to drop the percentage of energy use down a whole lot.
We put all of our survey information on drilling for oil into a chart to see how many people wanted to drill for oil to happen and how many didn't.
Making a chart helped us see the numbers quicker and easier.
I think it is cruel how people abuse animals today. I think we need to do something about it. Please help stop animal abuse by signing petitions that would protect the animals. I want bills to pass into laws that protect the animals.
I learned the SPCA, which is the Society for Prevention of Cruelty to Animals, are groups of people who have animal shelters and hospitals. The organizations help animals that have been hurt or abused. Do you know what age you can begin volunteering at a local SPCA? 13 years old.
If cloning costs so much, how will people pay for it? Would it raise taxes, or would people pay it on the spot?
Who will decide who gets to use cloning? The government or the people?
The whole time we researched, we had to keep remembering to ask ourselves, what do I want my reader to think or do after they read this article? We had to stick to the main message. I never realized how much the audience you were writing for has to be considered.
At first it was a little hard because we had to decide the best way to ask our survey questions. We didn't want a whole bunch of different answers to have to read through. We had to ask the questions so that whoever answered could all answer in a similar way. After we surveyed, we put all of our information on a chart. We made fractions out of how many people answered a certain way out of the number total. Then we divided the top number by the bottom number to get a decimal number. We moved the decimal over 2 places and found the percentage.
It was a lot easier to compare our information when we used the charts.
I think it's weird that people can abuse innocent animals. I like animals, and I picked this topic because I wanted to write an article that will get other people to think about how to stop animal abuse.
Do you know what invention helped people realize that animals have feelings? The microscope.
What was the name of the law that punished people who mistreated horses, mules, oxen, cows, sheep, and other cattle? The Martin Law.
But guess what the problem still was? It wasn't a law that protected domestic animals. Do you know what year the Martin Law changed to include domestic animals, including dogs? In 1883.
Since we had never researched much before, sometimes it was hard for us to find information. I work by myself most of the time and learned that it might have been easier to work with others when I look up information. I learned it was best to look at many sites in order to get the best of them all, because it is good to get all sides of the problem, and then you can figure out what you think from it all.
Finding questions and answers is hard, but it was fun because you get to learn about the issues you want to learn about. I learned that sometimes questions we asked didn't lead us to enough information that we wanted, so we kept having to change our questions. I realized how I really wanted people to think animal abuse was wrong and that they shouldn't do it. So I tried to put examples in that showed how wrong the abuse is. I wanted to affect whoever would read my article so they wouldn't abuse animals and so they would stop it.
When I started studying the death penalty, I wanted to know how people were executed and what actually happens during the process. I learned how painful each kind of execution can be. I decided that the death penalty is not right because the government sets a bad example when they kill someone for killing. No research could convince me that the death penalty is the right consequence. The death penalty is morally wrong.
You know how much it costs just to execute one person? $253 million. That's really expensive. It could cost a lot to keep these criminals in prison too. Overall, I do not want the death penalty.
I learned that when I put questions down sometimes, I think they make sense. And then I reread it, I need to make some changes.
The government said that we would only be drilling on 2,000 acres of land, but do you know how much land would really be affected by drilling? 640,000 acres. This project was different than any I have done before because we researched, made articles, and got published in the Lee Summit Tribune newspaper.
Do you know how long the oil would last if we drilled in Alaska's Arctic National Wildlife Refuge? Only 6 months. I like that we studied real issues that are going on in the world. I picked the energy topic because it is such a big problem in our world. I also researched ways America could save energy, and I also learned about cars fueled by corn that is made into ethanol. These cars are a good idea, but I don't think they have been made yet. Those cars would be a lot faster and cheaper than solar-powered cars.
I learned the states that use the death penalty have more homicide rates, and the states that don't have the death penalty have less homicides. If the death penalty raises homicide rates, why should we have it?
I learned about all of the different types of executions. There is lethal injections, the gas chamber, the electric chair, and hanging. Do you know what type of execution is used most often in the states today? Lethal injection.
I learned that a big problem with the death penalty is that it is irreversible. I like doing this project because I learned so much more about the death penalty than I ever knew before. Also, I liked really getting to learn how to get research and turn it into a real article.
One of the writing strategies we use to help us organize our thoughts is called What, Why, How. We wrote what we thought and gave reasons why. When we found our evidence, we made sure we had some facts, some explanations or stories. Our writing sounded better when we had a good variety in the answers to our questions.
While we were putting together our articles, we learned how to cut and paste, change font colors and sizes, how to copy a picture, graph, or chart off of the internet and onto our articles, and how to save information in the right spot. A lot of us learned how to make fancy lettering and word art too.
At first I had trouble remembering how to create text boxes, but that got easier. I had to find
good keywords when I searched. Also, I realized how to put what I find into my own words. And I had to work on getting my article to have good beginnings. Researching seemed hard for me. I want to get better at finding information and getting graphs on my page.
At first, I couldn't find a lot of information. I realized I had to ask better questions. When I got better at asking, I got better at answering.
I like this project because I got to choose what I say. I used evidence to say what I believed in.
I didn't realize how much can be done on the computer to make an article look nice.
When we research, I learned how to scan through information and pick out the things that are important.
I like this project because it gave us the freedom to make our own choices, and I really liked using the computers.
The reason this project was so fun, I got to learn new stuff about juveniles and while committing violent crimes. I found all kinds of graphs and charts that showed information about the number of crimes and types of crimes. I realized how graphs and charts helped me see information quickly, and that made me want to put the charts and graphs into my own article.
Each group got to have their picture taken and several articles published in the Lee Summit Tribune. Every week for about 6 weeks, the 5th graders from Westview filled the back page of the newspaper.